Yeah, nice to be here. My name is Patrik Lauha and I will talk about this Muuttolintujen Kevät phone app and the automatic word sound classifier behind it. So I will first tell you a little bit about this application, then about the classification model, how that works. That's the part that I actually know something about because I have developed the model. And then finally something about what we are doing with the audio data that we collect through this application. So first a little bit of my own background. So I'm currently finishing my PhD in the University of Helsinki. I have done my PhD as a part of this international life plan project, which is an international biomonitoring project where we have around 150 sampling sites across the world. And there we collect DNA samples of insects and spores. Then we have camera traps that take images of mostly larger animals like mammals or big birds. And then we have audio recordings for birds, bats and frogs. And the goal of this whole international project is to study and monitor the biodiversity and the species communities across the world and to predict their future state. And to be able to do this, we of course need to know which species we are seeing in our data. And there's a huge amount of data. So for example, audio, we have more than 100 years. So it's impossible for any animal expert or bird expert to manually go through all of that, or at least it would be super boring. So that's why there's this need for automatic classification systems. And my task has been to develop bird sound classifiers for automatically classifying this 100 years of audio. And this Muuttolintujen Kevät project phone app is kind of a side project for my PhD. So this is a free phone app for recording and classifying bird vocalizations. So people can download the app on their phone and then they go out and they record birds that they hear. And then these recordings are analyzed with this AI model, which is trained to recognize and classify the vocalizations of Finnish bird species. So let's say now that we have downloaded the application, we are outside and we hear a bird singing. Okay, we recorded that. Then we submit the recording to our backend. And as a result, we get this species classification. So in this case, the model is almost certain that it was this Eurasian skylark, kiuru in Finnish, that was singing in the recording. And this time the model was also correct. So this app has been developed together with many parties. The phone application itself has been developed here in the University of Jyväskylä. Then I work in the University of Helsinki, so the classification model has been developed there. CSC, the IT Center for Science in Finland, hosts the backend and stores all the audio recordings that the users submit. And then we also have other collaborators. For example, we have Yle, which is the national broadcasting company in Finland, and through Yle we have received a lot of attention and media coverage for the application. And of course, the basic idea of the app is to provide this tool for species identification, but then we have also other kind of basic properties in the app. So people can scroll through their old observations and filter them based on time and location. Then people can see the list of individual species that they have recorded. So the classification model or the application shows all detections with higher than 30% confidence. And these are shown with the orange color. Then the detections that have higher than 90% confidence we consider to be like reliable predictions. So those are shown with the green color, and then the purple color indicates that the user has actually confirmed the detection. So those users who are actually able to identify the birds themselves can give us feedback on how the classification model performs, if the detected species were correct or not. And based on this data, we can further improve the classification model. This year we introduced this bird game where people can actually learn to recognize the bird species themselves. So we play these random bird calls, and then the users have to select from these 4 options which bird was vocalizing. And also we have this map which shows all the detections made by other users, and this can also be filtered based on time and based on species, so users can see what kind of birds other people have detected and heard. Okay, this app has been a huge success. So it was released in spring 23, so 2.5 years ago, and by now we have more than 300,000 users who have submitted audio, which is more than 5% of the whole Finnish population, so a lot of people. And obviously this is due to the collaboration with Yle, the national broadcast company. So there in the picture we see that the first peak in the user happened in mid-April in 23, and then there was an even larger peak in early May. So those were after the app was featured in national radio and then in the national television. So a lot of people found out about the application and started to use that. And ever since, people have been coming back to the application. In the summer, we are receiving basically more than 50,000 recordings every day. Autumn and winter are, of course, like a little bit more quiet because there are no birds around, but every spring, like, people come back and actually use the application. And until now, we have received more than 16 million recordings, and from these recordings, the classification model has detected more than 32 million species with at least 50% confidence, and 15 million species with at least 90% confidence. So that's a lot of data. That is like a huge amount of data for any ecological research project to have. I have there the list of most common species, and for this most common species we have like 2 million detections for each species. Again, this is like a huge number to have data on anything going on in the nature. And these species are actually very common Finnish bird species: chaffinch, blue-tit, great-tit, blackbird, willow warbler. They are very widespread, easy to observe, easy to hear, so it's no wonder that it's these common and widespread species which are also mostly detected by the app users. And there are also a couple of more pictures kind of highlighting the popularity of the application. So this panel A shows where the recordings come from, so all over the Finland. These 6 blue dots that we have there on the map, they represent these professional sampling sites. So in bird research, we also have these research stations where we have passive acoustic monitoring going on. So we have set up microphones in the forest, and they basically record around the year and around the day. But as you can see, this kind of professional sampling setup cannot match the activity of the citizen scientists, of the app users that we have, because it would be impossible to set up like 100,000 sampling sites all over the Finland. But apparently it is possible to have like 300,000 people going on with their mobile phones. So that is really cool that the people are like actually helping us to collect data on birds and nature. And the other map, panel B, that shows roughly the Finnish population density. And when we compare the two maps, we see that they are essentially identical. So this is probably not a big surprise. So of course, people record birds where they live and where they move. So we get the most recordings from big cities and from southern part of Finland. But I think this is just like a nice way to highlight that actually like the app has been really nicely welcomed all over Finland, and we have users all the way from south to north. Then we have also the world map over there. So all of this data is actually only from the first summer of the application, so summer 23. And the world map again shows like those places from which we have received recordings, and we see that actually we have some recordings from every continent in the world, which is quite funny because this app is only available in the Finnish App Store. So basically you need a Finnish phone operator to be able to download the app, and also the classification model has only been trained to identify Finnish birds. So the app is pretty much useless elsewhere, but still like some people have traveled abroad and heard some foreign birds and wanted to try like what will the classification model say with these birds. So it's really cool like how enthusiastic people have been and how much this app has been used. Okay, so then the part that I actually know something about, so the classification model. So even though we are talking about audio classification, we are actually applying image recognition techniques. And there are a couple of reasons for this. So first one is that the current image recognition techniques, they are just so good. They have been developed a lot. There has been like a lot of research going on, and these current image methods, they work really well. And the other reason is that it's actually quite natural to represent audio as an image because the raw audio signal is like very high dimensional. So if you use some basic sampling frequency like 48 kilohertz, for example, that means that for each second of the audio, we have 48,000 numbers. And if we record more than 1 second, then we have obviously much more. And the model needs to be able to process all of this information. And always when modeling, we of course prefer to keep things simple. So this image representation, this spectrogram representation of sound is much lower dimensional than the raw audio signal. So that's why we want to use that for modeling. So the audio is first transformed into these spectrogram images with the short-time Fourier transform, and let's play another example bird sound. So this song of yellowhammer, which sounds like this. So that song forms this kind of repetitive pattern on the high frequency parts of the image. So there you can see kind of first the repetitive part, the ti-ti-ti-ti-ti, and then there's the final syllable. So this is what the data looks like. And this is what our model needs to classify. And in Python, we are using this librosa library for this audio processing. So that allows us to, for example, create these spectrograms and do all kind of adjustment and modification and processing of the sound signal that we need to do. Then to be able to train the model, we need training data. And that is being produced on this Bird Sounds Global portal, bsg.lai.fi. So there we have uploaded some of our field recordings from these sampling sites, and bird experts annotate this data. So they listen to the data and they tell us which species are vocalizing there. So for example, in this 10-second recording, we have one song from common chaffinch and then 2 instances of this red wing. So people draw these bounding boxes around the spectrogram so we know exactly like which pattern, which part of the spectrogram corresponds to that specific bird. So then we can teach this to the model. And once we have the training data, we train the model. So the species classification model is this convolutional neural network which processes the input audio in 3-second segments. In Python, there are a couple of widely used libraries for machine learning and neural networks. PyTorch is one of them, but we are using the other one, so this TensorFlow and Keras. And Keras is basically this like high-level API for using the tools of TensorFlow. And these libraries and tools are quite easy to use and effective. So with these neural network models, they are like computationally quite heavy models. And also there is a lot of training data, and the training data takes a lot of space. So it's like really computationally heavy to train these models. So it's important that we are able to use GPUs and parallelize the computation when training the models. And the model itself has this kind of like layered structure. So basically the model takes as input this spectrogram image, and then in each layer we apply some like mathematical operations on different parts of the image, and then the result is passed on to the next layer, where again some new calculations are applied and the results are passed on, and so on. And when the spectrogram image travels like this through the network, then after final layers, when we have trained the model with lots of training data and the parameters of the model have been optimized to produce a desired output, then finally we can feed in a new input spectrogram, and then we receive as an output this prediction. So basically this output contains probabilities for each species to be present in this input spectrogram. So in this example, the model is quite certain that it's species number 5 that occurs in this input spectrogram. And we have not actually trained the whole model from scratch ourselves, because that would require lots and lots of training data. So basically like thousands or tens of thousands of example spectrograms for each species that we want to classify, and that would be a lot data for our bird experts to produce in this online portal. So we are actually taking apart or using a block from this existing classifier called BirdNet Analyzer, which is kind of this maybe the best global like general tool for bird classification at the moment. So it has been trained with a huge amount of bird audio, and it has seen like lots of training examples, which is a good thing. The reason why we just don't use the exact same model ourselves is that model has not been trained specifically for Finnish birds or specifically for phone app data. So we kind of like take one part of the model and then we train the final classification layer ourselves, so that the model is well adapted to Finnish species and Finnish and these like mobile phone recordings. But this is called transfer learning, and it works quite nicely because these early layers of the model that we take from this convolutional base, they are basically used to detect these like low-level features like these shapes and edges from the images, and that part the BirdNet can do very well because it has been trained with lots and lots of data. And then as like an interim result, the BirdNet produces this feature vector of length 1024. So basically our classification layer takes as input those 1000 numbers, which basically describe the contents of the input spectrogram, and then based on these 1000 features or 1000 numbers, the classification layer produces the final species classification. And our model has been trained to recognize 263 Finnish bird species, so that's basically like all the bird species that you would like typically see in Finland. Okay, and one trick that we also use when training the model is this data augmentation. So as I mentioned, these convolutional neural networks, they are very complex models. So that is a good thing because they can learn very complex tasks such as bird sound identification. But the downside is that they are also prone to overfitting. It is quite possible that when you train a neural network, it actually remembers the training data set based on some fine but irrelevant details, and it does not generalize very well to any new data. And this is of course something that we need to avoid. And one way for avoiding overfitting is data augmentation. So basically we artificially create more training samples based on those ones that we actually have. So here this panel A shows an original training sample that is the song of a common chaffinch, the most common bird of Finland. And then all of these other panels are some perturbations that we have applied on the original sample. So these panels B and C, they show horizontal and vertical stretching. Then panels D and E show horizontal and vertical shifts. Then on panel F, we have reduced the noise level. So basically we have highlighted those intense parts of the audio signal and highlighted the actual song of the bird and tried to reduce the background noise. On panel G, we have done the opposite. So we have actually added more background noise. So the signal gets kind of more blurry and the spectrogram becomes more unclear. Panel H is mix up. So that's also very, very important in practice. So there we have added another bird species that vocalizes on top of this original one. And this is something that actually happens in the nature. So you can imagine that when we are out there recording birds with our phone, it's not like that the birds would come like one by one and sing right next to our phone and then leave and the other one comes. But actually they are like overlapping in vocalizations. They come from like different distances. And there's like a lot of things going on in the soundscape, so we need to also teach this to the model because otherwise the model would not generalize to those kind of conditions. And also like otherwise it's good that these augmentations, they kind of try to mimic the natural variation that actually happens in the real world data. If we manage to mimic that variation, then the augmentation is successful and the models perform well. These panels I and J, which show this horizontal and vertical masking, that's of course something that we will not see in the nature. So some frequency bands or some time periods like don't just magically disappear, but this is just a way to improve the generalization. So we're kind of forcing the model to learn on the overall whole image and not just focus on like one single detail that might be like very irrelevant for the actual learning task. And for this data augmentation, we apply the Librosa library and also SciPy, and then there are these smaller colored noise and noise reduce libraries that are used for this noise level modification. And of course, like in addition, we use some like basic Python libraries like pandas and numpy and these kind of things. Okay, then maybe a few words about why this application was published and what we are actually doing with the data that it produces. So of course, like one motivation for publishing the application was just to like show people what kind of tools are being used currently in ecological research and like give people this possibility to play with the most recent methods in this audio classification, but also we are storing all the audio recordings that people submit and this data is being used for ecological research. And not super much has been done yet because this whole thing is quite novel. But after the first summer we published one paper where we basically just introduced the application and kind of showed the type of data that it produces. So this figure shows just like one example where we compare these recordings collected by the citizen scientists, so the app users, and then these professional sampling sites. So the blue lines represent these professional research station sampling sites. So there the dashed line shows the sampling effort, which is basically constant because the microphones are out there and they record continuously around the day. And then the solid blue line shows the bird activity, so how much bird detections we get each hour. And from that we can see that birds are actually most active early in the morning, then the activity level kind of declines, and we have another smaller peak right before the sunset. But if we only look at the data collected by the app users, that tells a very different story. So of course people don't stay out throughout the day, or apparently some do because the line doesn't go to zero, but most people sleep during the night, and then we get most recordings during the daytime, so in the morning around 10 a.m. and in the evening around 7 p.m. And of course, majority of the bird detections then also comes from those times when people have done most recordings. So this activity pattern looks of course very different than what we observe from these like passive acoustic monitoring data. Also another difference is that these recordings collected by users, they contain much more birds than this passive data, because most of the passive acoustic monitoring data is actually silence. The microphones are recording constantly, but there's not much going on all the time. Whereas people who use this application, they typically have first heard or seen a bird singing and they record that specific bird, so they're more like targeted recordings that people collect. So there are like these kind of differences between different data types, and it is just like important to realize that, and maybe the best results are received when we combine these different data types together. But yeah, this was like just like a really basic result and just like description of the data, basically. But there are also a few other projects going on right now which are actually more exciting. So maybe I will mention a few of them. So these are actually, or the first one, yeah, all of these are like more or less being carried out here in the University of Jyväskylä. And first one is this digital twinning and real-time bird forecasting. So we actually know quite a lot about birds. Like we have lots of prior information. We know which bird species occur in Finland. We know the habitat types where they occur. We know a lot about the migration. We like roughly know when each species is arriving. We know when they are leaving. And also we know a lot about these other aspects that affect the birds, so weather and different land types and all these like environmental factors. So now that we have all this kind of prior information and we combine it with these real-time detections that are like flowing in from the application, we can actually do some pretty cool modeling. So we can basically like get enhanced estimates of the spatial distribution of birds. We can predict how the migration goes on, and we can predict the singing activity of birds. So this first example is just from the spatial distribution. We have there two example species, and the maps on the left side just show the prior information that we have, like where these birds should occur. And then the right-hand side maps show the posterior information, so that information where we actually have used these phone app detections. So for example, for this common gull, we see that the prior prediction is quite good, like we roughly know where the species should occur, but this map, which uses the phone app detections, is more accurate, more sharper, like we see that this species is like strictly confined to these specific areas, mostly around these lakes that we have in southern Finland and also coastal areas. So we get like more accurate information of where the different species are. And then the other example, sedge warbler, the map shows the capital area around Helsinki, and there actually the prior prediction for where we might see the species is quite bad. But when we combine the prior information with this phone app data, we see that the species is actually very strictly confined around these few bay areas that have these like reed beds which the species uses. So we are actually able to improve these distribution maps a lot with this phone app data. Then the other thing was about the migration. So again, we have some prior knowledge. We roughly know when the birds are coming and when they're leaving. But there's a lot of uncertainty about this because this is also affected by the weather. Like if we have a very warm spring, the birds might arrive early. If the weather is cold and there is lots of snow, the birds will come later. So it's like impossible to very accurately predict when the birds are coming. But now when we use again this real-time data, we get really accurate predictions for when the birds are coming. So for example, here we see that in the middle of May, this garden warbler has not yet really arrived. So on the map there are like a couple of these black dots that show the places where people have recorded this bird. So there are only like a few instances, maybe like the first arrivals of the spring, but then in only 2 weeks the situation has like completely changed. The whole southern Finland is full of these species detections, and basically all the migrants have appeared in only this 2-week time period. So to predict these kind of phenomena, it's super important to get this real-time observation data that we combine with the priors, so then we can do this prediction, so that, for example, if we see that, okay, now the first garden warbler has arrived in Helsinki and the weather forecast for the next week is warm and sunny and shows southern winds, then we can predict that, okay, probably you will see the species here in Jyväskylä after 4 days or something. And another thing that we are able to predict is also like the singing activity around the day. So I already showed you some data like how the activity of birds behaves, but we can also do these like species-specific activity maps which predict like how likely you are to hear the bird singing. So people can use these if they want to find out where should they go and when should they go if they want to observe some specific species. So this is like one cool example of what the data can be used for. Then another example is about this breeding bird atlas. So the breeding bird atlas is a project where the Natural History Museum tries to find out where all the bird species of Finland breed. So basically the whole Finland has been splitted into these 10 kilometers by 10 kilometer squares, and for each square, for each grid cell, we want to know which species are breeding there certainly, which species are breeding there probably, and which species are breeding there possibly. And this data has been collected with help of bird experts and bird hobbyists. So people go out and they record their detections and observations. But the problem is that Finland is a big country and we don't have that many people. And especially we don't have that many people who are capable of like identifying the birds themselves. So again, like the app helps a lot because with the application, even those people who are not able to recognize the birds themselves, they can still go out and they can still record birds, and we receive those observations. So right now we are actually filtering our bird detections based on these existing species lists for these grids. So we are trying to filter for those species that are still missing, so that have not been reported by these experienced birders, and we are trying for each grid cell to find those species, and now then experienced or like professional bird experts are then listening through these recordings and then like manually validating if the species was actually present or not. So this way we can use this huge database that we have to supplement this breeding bird atlas. So this is like, to me, this is like a very nice practical example of the ways that we can actually use this data for like larger ecological research. And then the app is not just about this ecological research and the bird research, but this year additionally we included this more like humanities or social science style of research to this application. So basically we allow people to do these interviews after they have recorded a bird. They can tell us like how they feel, how was their nature experience, and how happy they are or how sad they are now that they heard or did not hear the bird. And this data is then like anonymously processed with AI models, so no human ever listens to these interviews. So they're like fully like the processing is fully automated, and researchers only work with the like results and outputs produced by these AI models. So that should be quite safe for anyone to tell their deepest secrets for the application. Also, like otherwise, this app has been developed so that the kind of data safety is on pretty high level. So we don't collect any data from the users. We don't know who they are. There's no need to register. I mean, you have to create this kind of user ID, but that's just like anonymous user ID. We don't know who is behind the recordings, and we don't even want to know that. So we are just collecting like recordings of birds, and we don't need any background information of the actual users. So maybe that is also like one reason why people have felt safe to use the application. Okay. This was actually all that I have. I have mentioned here a couple of names who have been included in the development. There are also many others, so sorry for all of you whom I didn't mention here. And then I have the links for the App Store, so those of you who have a Finnish phone operator and who have not yet downloaded our application, please go and do that and start recording birds. It's not the best season currently, but still like the fall migration will go on for like a couple of weeks at least, and next spring they will appear again, so at least then you will have the app ready in your phones. But yeah, thank you for your time, and I believe that there should be some time for questions, so I'm happy to answer if you have any.
Thank you, Patrik. Really interesting, and we do have Jussi here from the organizing party, and some of our other team members have been working also on that application. So come talk to us. So questions for Patrik. We have two mics here. Asko is there, and you are here. So I'm closer, I guess. Let's see who wins. Asko might win. Pass it forward. Yeah. Which mic wins? Hurry. It's here.
I can use two. Okay, thank you. I have two small questions. First, how much computational power do you need to do actual like recognition stuff? Like what hardware used? You said something about supercomputer. So could you please go a little bit much into details?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, maybe maybe the supercomputer was not a good term to mention here for this audience. It sounds cool for people who don't know anything about computers, but actually like the classification itself, like that doesn't require as much as training the model. So for training the model, we need like these GPU resources and lots of them. The classification is much lighter, and I think that happens on CPUs. Luckily, I don't have to know that much about that, so I have only like trained the model. That happens on the CSC side. I don't know if Jussi actually might have some understanding.
I have extra microphone, so I can share.
But yeah, I'm really glad that I don't have to take care of that, and there are like other experts who take care of this.
Well, basically the model, the interference stuff is pretty easy to do. You can almost make it run with a Raspberry Pi, so that kind of range, it's not that hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like, I think the thing is that because there are so many users that, and we have these like kind of activity peaks that like the overall load when we have like lots and lots of audio coming in at the same time. So that has caused some troubles on the CSC side, but like the running the model on like an individual recording is not that heavy.
Yeah, because we don't use any cloud services for hosting this thing. This is purely run on CSC servers, ordinary servers with Xeon processors or stuff like that. So nothing fancy going on the UI side. So that's pretty simple. It is basically an AI service that the application calls to and sends the audio and stuff like that. Nothing really fancy about that.
And the second question, is the app itself open source?
So the app, I mean, like the model is not yet open source. We are publishing that. I guess like the app is not open source as such, but again, I think that maybe Jussi is like the.
That's something we haven't decided yet. This is kind of still an ongoing project with the multiple partners like the YLA and CSC. So kind of the questions about the open source stuff becomes quite difficult at some point. And then there is also this user unified backend where we want to make sure that the data comes in from this app and not from random dude with his own recordings and stuff like that. So these kind of effects of the quality of the data we want to get. So we want to keep some kind of track on what kind of data comes in. And again, there is nothing really fancy about that app. It's a Flutter app, basically, that calls a couple of APIs, records the sound and calls the APIs. So you can do one with an AI in a weekend, so that's not that tough.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Question here.
A very interesting technique that taking the sound, pushing it through a Fourier transform and then doing image manipulation or image recognition on it. Do you find that the devices have more variation in their recording microphones, maybe more affected by distance than you would have with an actual photo?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a part that I actually didn't talk a lot about, but this is a major issue, and this is also like a major issue why we don't use like the base BirdNet model as such, because it has been trained mostly with this like high quality targeted recordings. So these birds have been recorded with like professional gear, and it has been like targeted at single individual, whereas well, maybe not as much here with the phone app, but especially with this passive acoustic monitoring, when we have like really cheap and shitty microphones and they are like recording in the forest where we have like kind of sound coming from like all distances. It's really like the difference is like between the night and day. It's very different, like the signal that we record with those microphones, and also like the microphone in the phone, like it does not. The data coming through that does not look like the data that is recorded with some like super targeted high quality microphone, and that's exactly why we need this local data, this own data. So we also now that the app is up and running, we also use these recordings collected by users for retraining the model. That's why we need the data augmentation. So basically we add this noise, and we have also these techniques that we can basically like kind of shift the sound source, so make the sound or make the signal sound like it comes from like 50 meters away. So these kind of techniques we definitely need to use in the training, so that the recognition model can like successfully classify the sound.
And unsurprisingly, the whole audio pipeline in the mobile phones is not optimized for birds. It's optimized for human voice. So that's kind of one thing.
All right. Asko, we have a question there and maybe from here.
Yeah, as a person who doesn't have a Finnish Google account, I have Merlin, which is an app by Cornell University. I was wondering if there's any cooperation either in the final data or in developing the model, because they're basically also collecting that, and whether there is cooperation in improving the models, but also maybe sharing the end data on the birds.
Yeah, so not currently with Merlin. There is also another global tool. So this BirdNet actually also has a phone app, and with BirdNet people we have been in collaboration. Well, our like classification model like is based on their model, and also we are currently working with this Xenocanto, which is like a global library of bird sounds and bird detection. So of course, like the big goal is at some point to kind of like combine all of these data sources and all of these methods that we have. Of course, we cannot share like the raw audio because that we are not allowed to do. But the species detections, those we actually already, I don't know if they have been published or will be published right now in these Finnish like servers of the National Natural History Museum, but also like the aim is to get that data accessible like internationally. I have heard that the Merlin app developers, they are not like, the Merlin is kind of they go more like the app first, so they want to like build a cool app for people to use. Then BirdNet and us, we have more like the research-oriented kind of view. So we think like how can we together improve the methods and how can we like combine the data. So I believe that also in the future we are more likely to kind of collaborate with the BirdNet than Merlin. But yeah, like of course that is kind of the big goal, that we don't want to compete with each other. We want to kind of like join the resources.
All right, one more question.
I just wanted to ask, do you have some like data verification? Because yeah, I understand that this app is designed for recording birds, but not all people are good, and possibly someone can like record anything, and it would be like to take place on the space somewhere. Do you like filter or verify data?
Yeah, so like there are like two things. Like of course, like for like bird detections, like for that type of data, like depending on the use case, like we do filtering on that. So we like either like manually filter the reliable and true detections, or like depending on the use case do some other stuff. Then the raw audio signal itself, because we are not like publishing it anywhere, like nobody can, like, or a very limited set of people can even access that data. So we don't filter that. But yeah, of course it's true that people can record basically anything, and they can like even, of course they can record like other people without permission and then submit that. But like then again the crime kind of happens on that side. But of course like that's also why we need to be like super careful with how we store the data and like keeping things safe so that they don't leak, because indeed that would be like a big issue, like if we would accidentally publish like some super
Also, there's this thing about the number of users are using this application, because we are in the hundreds of thousands of people. It has a little bit the same kind of idea why kind of voting systems work. So kind of cheating in a little small scale doesn't really affect the whole thing, which is the kind of main point. And we would probably detect some anomalies if some certain users are starting to put out hugely more information that is actually possible for human to record, all that sorts of things. So kind of the mass of how humans ordinarily work have their own kind of pattern in this data, when it's been recorded and what coordinates where it's been recorded and stuff like that. So kind of faking that massively for the whole thing is going to be a quite tricky one.
Yeah. Like if you're talking about just the bird detections, like of course people are like doing everything, like they are recording some playbacks and whatever, like just for fun. But like this is such a huge scale thing that like you can very like clearly see the true signal, like these kind of funny things, they get averaged out, and then in those cases where we might actually be interested in some like individual birds, so let's say like some rare species, like one specific call rather than like the huge mass of the data, in those cases we then always like manually verify. So kind of depending on the use case we can do like different kind of verification.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much, Patrik.